Welcome to the Free to Soar podcast. My mission is to inspire, empower, and equip heart-centered, mission-driven, kingdom-minded business owners to show up freely and fully as the brilliant, powerful change makers that you are, so that you can lead the business and the life of your dreams. You'll enjoy vulnerable, authentic conversations with me and other heart-centered, mission-driven leaders that will spark your heart and ignite your passion to powerfully transform you, your business, and your life from the inside out. Your next level of impact and income is about unleashing the fullness of you, reprogramming your limiting beliefs and patterns, tapping into and trusting your inner wisdom, and harnessing God's power within you so that you can unlock new possibilities in your business and your life. And this show brings it to you. Step with me into a God-powered reality wilder than your wildest dreams, with freedom, impact, abundance, and enjoyment that you were created for. Let's go. Hey guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Free to Soar podcast. I'm Connie Jones. I'm so glad you're here today, joining me for this magical episode that we're going to have today. We're going to be talking about some pretty amazing stuff. Actually, one of my favorite subjects, which is being a regulated resourced person, a regulated resourced leader. And why that's important and how we begin to do that. So let's get going, and let me share why this is so important to me, and why I'm talking about it today. So over the last couple of years, I've been intentionally focused on healing my nervous system. And for most of my life, I've functioned in a state of high anxiety. So where my stomach would churn, I'd have these sensations that the chest would be tight a lot. I had this constant state of high alert and dread about when the next thing was going to happen, even when everything was going great. I just felt like I had to be on alert all the time and be ready for the next thing to happen. And I wasn't even aware that I was doing it, but as a high achiever and a doer, it was just easy to push, just kind of brush these things off as stress from work and the pressure that I felt to take care of myself and to make things happen. But soon I began to understand that it is so much more than that. And I've done 30 years of deep, probably more than that now, deep personal inner development work in counseling and coaching. And I've had incredible guidance, incredible teachers and coaches and counselors. But even in spite of that, I wondered why I wasn't able to feel as calm, as peaceful, and as fully empowered as I wanted to. And I knew myself really well. I had done, a lot of trauma healing. I had created more space in my days. I had created more freedom in my work, in my life. I had learned to love and enjoy myself and my life more than I ever had. Yet I was still really reactive to and run by fear and again, that high functioning anxiety. And I felt overwhelmed a lot, and I couldn't really relax fully. Actually, I just felt like that was just my life. It was like that was what I had been used to for so long that I didn't know anything different. I had extra tension in my body that caused body aches and migraines. And I'd gone into early menopause at 43. I had a hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue when I had a great life. Something was going on under the surface and I didn't know what. I loved my work, but I felt tired a lot and I couldn't push myself at the same pace that I always had. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I was starting to feel burned out, which was really scary to me. And I didn't know if I was burned out or what was going on. Well, then came COVID, and I had it 5 times, and I had long COVID symptoms for over 2 years after that. After the original, I had COVID early on and had it, for about a year and a half after that. And then I had 2 concussions over the next year and a half. So a lot was going on with my health. And I went to multiple doctors and specialists, and I got a little bit better, which, with all the interventions that I tried, and I began to rest a lot more and shift my workouts and adjust my schedule to accommodate for healing my body. But it began to become apparent to me that the constant high functioning stress and anxiety that was running right below the surface of my body and mind all the time was actually from a dysregulated nervous system that was wreaking havoc on my body. And uh, over time, it had really robbed me of a lot of rest, a lot of health, a lot of inner peace, a lot of joy, and all that God was trying to, wanted me to be able to enjoy in life. And I had done all the mindset work. I had renewed my mind with biblical truth. I had a close relationship with God. I lived in, connection to Him and in my purpose and my calling. I wasn't in a place where, that I was struggling financially, or, the business wasn't struggling. There was just like everything was good, but I never felt safe to relax or enjoy anything. And I couldn't feel God's love no matter what I did. And I knew that He loved me, but I always felt like I had to push harder, do more, and make things happen for myself. And um, I was just feeling I was scared to upset or disappoint people and God, and constantly worried about what next thing was going to happen that was bad, how I was going to mess something up that was going to create some kind of negative retribution for me or some kind of punishment as a result of something that I did or didn't do. And that's a horrible way to live. And I was tired of living that way. It would just ran me all the time. So I began searching for new revelation and the freedom that I knew was available to me. And I began praying for answers. And I started to see things everywhere about somatic work and about healing your nervous system and about living in regulation. And what does that really mean? And I met someone in a women's business community who had experienced really similar symptoms in a reality that was very similar. And she had worked with a somatic coach to whom she had referred me. And over the this past year, I have read and studied everything I could about nervous system healing and energy healing. And I have experienced it for myself through my own somatic work. And it has been absolutely life-changing. It's been amazing. I had no idea just how dysregulated my nervous system really was and how many symptoms it was causing and how it impacted my health, my peace, my relationships, and my happiness, and the amount that I can enjoy my life and my business, and how much success and support I was able to receive into my life and into my business because my dysregulated nervous system was creating resistance in those areas for so long that I was completely not aware of. And I'll share a whole lot more about my journey and the changes that I've experienced over time on this podcast. And I actually have shared a little bit of it in an episode earlier on with McCall LeBaron, where we talk about how nervous system regulation is important for healing and health, and you can go back and listen to that episode too. I would encourage you to. This is a lot of really good stuff in there. But we'll talk more about it, and I'll share more about my story. But for today's purposes, I want you to hear this. I want you to hear that this is the essence of what I want you to know, is that as a result of the healing and the transformation that I've experienced, I now incorporate the somatic coaching into coaching my clients, and it is a true game changer because of this. Most people are unaware, completely unaware, but it's super crucial to understand that just how big of a role our nervous system plays in everything in our life and in our business. The amount of peace and joy we can experience, the amount of connection and satisfaction we can have in our relationships, the degree of success we are comfortable receiving, and even our relationship with money and abundance. So, but today, and the next episode, we're going to do a 2-episode, and we'll see where we go from here. I'm going to talk about our nervous system healing in relation to the amount of success and the amount of money that we are able to receive and enjoy because of our nervous system dysregulation, or how regulated our nervous system is. So we always talk about money in terms of saving more, earning more, all the practical stuff. But we ignore the other unconscious levels that determine the majority of our behavior and therefore our results when it comes to money. So today we're going to get into how your nervous system and your money choices are constantly communicating with each other all the time. We're talking about what's happening in your body when you're making those financial decisions and how you can get your nervous system to be your money-making friend and ally. So our bodies have amazing wisdom that when we tap into it, can seriously boost our financial situation. I mean, game changing, seriously boost it. So our bodies have this incredible wisdom. When we tap into it, it can absolutely boost our financial situation. And so I want you to just hang in with me for a minute. And by the time that we wrap up today, you're going to have a new way of looking at your bank account and your body's signals that'll change your relationship with money for the better. So we're mistaken to believe or to think that more money will solve all of our problems, when money is just actually an amplifier of what already is. It just reveals and expands who and what we already are. So today, when you walk away from this episode, you're going to be so much better prepared to work with your nervous system to shift your energetic set point for what you'll be able to receive and what you'll be able to enjoy financially. And well, actually, by the end of next episode too, the combination will help you so much. The research tells us that even women who are making $275,000 plus a year, which is a high income, many of them still lack financial confidence and say that they never feel secure enough. So the misunderstanding is that we all believe that more money solves all of our problems. And what data shows us is that more money does not solve the problem. Of course, after people have their basic needs met. Now, we're not talking about, if people can't pay for their shelter or for their food. If you're struggling for your basic needs to be met, then of course, more money is absolutely going to solve that problem to a certain degree. However, once your needs are met and you're moving towards more affluence, meaning you have more than enough, unless you shift your nervous system set point, you will not be able to actually experience and receive, to be able to enjoy what you have or receive more than what feels safe for you to receive. And that's sad. That's a tragedy. That's really scary that we are keeping ourselves from being able to only have a certain amount, to receive a certain amount. Do you know people, or are you someone who, no matter how much money you make or they make, the conversation is still, and the feeling is still that there's never enough? And I had my coach ask me this year, she said, Connie, you know what? You think you're different, just like everybody else, that when there's a certain amount of money, then you'll finally feel safe and secure enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And then, it's funny, it's fun to ask different people what their amount is, that when they finally make this amount, will they'll finally feel safe enough, feel secure enough. And we think that we will when we get there, but when we get there, it's still not enough to make us feel safe or secure ever. So let me explain to you why that is, based on the way our bodies work and the way that our bodies are connected to our brains and the way all of that is connected to our emotions, our beliefs, our behavior, and our reality. So here's the deal. Basically, every process in our body is determined by or mitigated by our nervous system. So our nervous system is a network of nerves that runs through our body. And it includes our brain, our spinal cord, and there's not one part of our body that's not impacted by our nervous system greatly. Within our bodies are networks of technology and physiology that can unlock states of bliss, states of expansion, states of connection beyond our wildest imagination. And that's how incredible our bodies really are. Just stop and think about that for just a second. We each have networks of absolutely miraculous interconnected systems that keep us alive without us having to do anything about it other than get some sleep, make sure we eat, make sure we drink water. But our body is keeping us alive. Our nervous system is keeping us alive without us even having to think about it. And it is absolutely a miracle. It's phenomenal. And We are spiritual beings having a human experience. But the major part of our life, the fact that we are alive in this lifetime, having this experience, the major factor of it is our body. And so, why would we not get to know our body intimately and fully live in our bodies while we have it? So, the nervous system mitigates our ability to receive and experience money. And it actually experiences the benefits that money can bring us. So, we've been misunderstanding that. First, we think that more money will solve all of our problems, and it solves some problems. But we misunderstand, and we make and we make money our source, and we think like, oh, money is going to make me feel ultimately satisfied or peaceful or safe or secure or whatever. And no, it won't. Because if you and I cannot access a place within us right now where we begin to feel safe and whole and fulfilled and satisfied in our physiology, in our body right now, adding more money will only amplify what we've already got inside of us. Money will just reveal and expand who and what we already are. So with more money, we'll just be, if we're nervous and anxious and never feel safe or secure enough, or never happy or never enough, it's never enough, never satisfied, we will still feel that just at an elevated level because it's just going to be amplified because there's more money to lose. There's more money to manage. There's more responsibility with it. And so it's not the answer is making more money. The answer is learning how to feel safe in our body so that we can receive more money and we can enjoy what we have and stop resisting what is there for us to be able to enjoy and to start being able to feel this sense of safety and security now. So you've heard people say things like, oh, they've got all this money and then they turn greedy. No, people are who they are. And then you add money to it and it just makes it more so. So adding more money doesn't necessarily solve the problem of feeling like there's never enough or the feeling of anxiety or worrying that the bad thing's going to happen. But what does solve the problem of feeling like there's constantly not enough and what bad thing is going to happen next is working with our nervous system and learning how to regulate it and resource it. So our nervous system has these set points, and these set points are determined by the environment in which we were raised. So our past experiences and the experiences of the collective of other people who we relate to, our ancestors, the people in our environment, people who we're around, have people who influenced us in some way. And I want to talk today, there are 4 levels that impact our nervous system. And they are here. I'm going to just unpack all of them, all 4. And the first one is our big T traumas. And what I mean by that is the traumas that majorly impacted our nervous system. So most people who begin to learn about their nervous system understand that trauma is connected to the nervous system and the ability of our nervous system to regulate us in our daily experience. Trauma, though, is essentially when something happens to us and we don't have the capacity or the support, the resources, the tools, the skills, or the bandwidth to fully process that experience and to resolve it in our bodies, in our hearts, our minds, our physiology. And so a part of us gets stuck in that experience emotionally and energetically. So traumas are like these little uncompleted emotional stress loops that live in our body and keep us stuck in time. And at the time of that experience happening, because we weren't able to fully process it and fully run it through our system and essentially metabolize the experience. So there are big T traumas that happens. And that's how it impacts us. There are also, the second level is that there are little T traumas. And those are the things that combine and add up over time. And the things that we need to understand about trauma is that we can't determine for someone else what's traumatic and what's not. So a lot of what impacts our nervous system is what we have the capacity to process, to metabolize it, and the resources, the support to metabolize it. So the same exact experience could happen to 2 different people and it will impact their nervous system in a completely different way. and it gets stored in their body memory in different ways also. It's based on so many different factors of that person: personality, wiring, um, perception, um, role in their family, relationships, that, different types of relationships. So we don't want to be looking out at the world and judging what should or shouldn't have been traumatic to another human being that has nothing to do with us. It's none of our business, and we cannot see inside their bodies or feel inside their bodies to know what that experience was like for them. So there are big T traumas, there's little t traumas, and those are two of the different ways that our nervous system is impacted. We also have collective traumas. Collective traumas are when somebody we identify with has experiences something that is impactful to our physiology, to our nervous system. So maybe we're the same race, or maybe we're the same gender or socioeconomic level, or maybe we have the same career, or maybe we're the same age, or a combination of things. Maybe there's somebody either in the media or in our lives who we identify with in a certain way, and we have witnessed them, or we've heard about them going through something traumatic, or just chronic trauma, just chronic experiences, that, painful experiences and oppression or struggle. Our body, our nervous system actually imprints that as though it's happened to us. The mirror neurons in our body don't know the difference between something happening to somebody else and something happening to us when we identify with them, because our bodies don't believe the lie of separation. Our bodies know the truth that we are all kind of waves in the same ocean, energetically and spiritually. We are not all separate bodies of water. We are connected to each other and connected to the universe as God created us. And to Him, we're all children of one God. So my body can't tell the difference between something that happened to somebody else who I identify with that was scary, or something that happened to me. So imagine just for a second what happens in the bodies of people who are in the same group. Something is happening that everyone is reposting on social media over and over again, like people who've experienced racial oppression, or take the conflict in Israel and Palestine. If you're someone with Israeli heritage and you have family there, perhaps you've traveled there and spent time in that part of the world, and everybody on social media feed everybody on the social media feed decides that it's their job to continue to repost, the horrors going on. That's actually traumatic to people's nervous systems. Continuing to talk about the horrors going on in the world can actually be really, really harmful and traumatizing, and make our nervous system set points frozen for people who are collectively feeling connected to those events. So, first of all the more reason to be aware of what's going on inside of us, and to be aware of how our nervous system has been impacted by our experiences and our relationships. And then to pursue our own healing and our wholeness. And that's just, I just gave you a couple of really practical, intense examples of how collective trauma works. But now what ends up happening is, when we see out there other people who we relate to who are having the experience that our body also feels is scary, and our body doesn't know the difference between whether it happened to them or whether it happened to us, then it actually puts us in a contracted, dysregulated state, and we're less able to engage in the world in a paradigm of safety and security and well-being. And it may not even ever happen to us. We might have no reason to not feel safe in our minds, but it's little T traumas, or that we're dismissing, or it could be a big T trauma that we have forgotten about and locked away somewhere, that our brain is protecting us from. It could be collective trauma that we're experiencing over and over. So we may not even be in the same part of the world with somebody, but we can shut down and contract, and it's not helpful because the world may not feel safe. It doesn't actually collectively improve any of us for us to try to just shut it off and avoid it and invalidate it for ourselves. That's collective trauma. And then number 4, we have ancestral trauma. So what we know from studies on epigenetics is that the experiences that happen to people who are in our lineage, like our grandmother, our great-grandmother, our great-grandfather, our grandfather, et cetera, those experiences also live on in our DNA. And we also know that all of our, for instance, all of the eggs that a woman produces, if you're somebody with ovaries, all of your eggs already existed when you were 4 months in utero in your mom. So what that means is when your mom was gestating in your grandmother's body, all of her eggs existed when she was at 4 months gestation. And that means the egg that you came from was originated inside your grandmother's body. And I know that my grandmothers and my grandfathers grew up in the Great Depression, and the impact of what happened to them then lives in my body at some level. So even though I've not personally experienced food scarcity or food insecurity in my life, I have not personally experienced any of the hardships they did. My body does have a memory of it epigenetically because our nervous system is designed to keep us surviving. It's designed to keep me safe. And so my nervous system is gathering all the information about what could possibly be a threat at any level. Little t traumas, big T traumas, collective traumas, ancestral trauma. It experiences all of it. And it is hypersensitive to any possible threat so that our nervous system gathers those threats. And it's like a threat gathering machine. And it gathers information from every place it can, including our ancestry. And what we know with the study of epigenetics is that within our nervous system, within our wiring are patterns of what happened to our ancestors that we may be reacting to in a trauma response way and not even know it. So I want you to think about what may have happened in your ancestry. And again, don't give it so much power that you are stuck by it or that you believe you're trapped there, because you're not. But we just need to know about it so that we can address it and begin to regulate and begin to heal. You know, you may have had people who were enslaved in your history. You may have had people who've gone through famine. Here's, alcoholism, drugs. We may never know abuse. We never know the stories of our ancestors that live in our bodies. But what we do know is that our bodies are playing them out. We are actively, unconsciously based on generational trauma. And we will never even know the story to some of it. And yet we're living out these fear patterns and these constriction patterns in our life, in our lives and in our current reality that were handed down to us because our DNA is wired to keep us safe and protected. Our DNA, our wiring, our nervous system is not wired for expansion. It is not. It's not wired for abundance. Yes, that is our reality. That is our inheritance. That is what's available to us. But we have to overcome per se. And God didn't create us like this. This all happened when we, because of evil in the garden, and we had, originally we were in a safe, secure, fully abundant place in the safety of the garden, right there with God. Had everything we needed in abundance. But when we had to, what's the word I'm looking for? Made to come to live on earth, where there's brokenness, and there's toil and labor, and there's pain, and there's death, and there's all there's sickness and disease. Our nervous system went into overdrive to try to keep us safe and to try to keep us. It works really well. God designed us to keep ourselves safe so that we don't die with any little thing. But our default setting is not to expand, because according to our nervous system, that which is unfamiliar or not common to us or not natural to us or normal always registers as a threat or registers as unsafe. And so our nervous system, I want you to think about this. Our nervous system chooses a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven every time. Every single time it can. It will choose safety and familiarity, even if it is miserable. It will choose stuck and comfortable, even if it's miserable, every single time, until we learn how to update our nervous system thermostat. Now, here's the good news. I don't need to know every single traumatic story from my grandmother or my great grandmother or even from my own story. I don't need to know all that. But what I do know is that these stories live on in my body, and I get to complete the emotional stress loop on behalf of my ancestors, on behalf of all the experiences that happened to me, on behalf of collective trauma. Our grandparents didn't know about the nervous system or about therapy or somatic healing and coaching. They didn't have people talking about personal development and generational healing, but we do. And so in this lifetime, in 2024, we get to heal, and this is biblical. This is biblically supported and epigenetically supported. We get to heal 7 generations back and 7 generations forward. And that's just not just a nice, fun thing that feels good to say. It is literally available to us because of the way epigenetics work, because of the way God created us. We can literally, by closing emotional stress loops, now by completing and revisiting all of those places that we are stuck in our nervous system, and by signaling to our nervous system that we are safe and secure over time, it actually changes our DNA. Patterns that we're passing along, and not only the ones that we're passing along, but the ones that we are living in right now, we can change those. We can begin to live in new physiology, in a regulated, resourced nervous system that feels safe, that can access inner peace and joy. No matter what we've absorbed, no matter what we've experienced. So the name of the game is to learn to signal safety in your body, in your nervous system. And that's a whole other body of work. I'll talk more about that. That's a whole other journey. And I'll explain that in the next episode. And I'll give you some more ways that you can actually signal safety to your body. I've been doing this work for over a year, and it is amazing. And again, if you're interested in doing more of this work, I can absolutely do it with you. I incorporate this into my coaching now, and it's been game changing for leaders, especially business owners who were making decisions out of urgency, or feeling anxious, or just worrying about money, or there's never enough. It really updates and upgrades your nervous system thermostat so that you can actually stop the resistance to lack in your life, and you can not have to feel the fear around not having. And so you can enjoy so much more about building what God has put in your heart, and you have access to the resources to do it, which of course, that's going to have a ripple effect and expand how much we can receive financially, how much wealth we're able to create, and how much richness we can feel in our everyday. Because remember, our nervous system set points are not determined by how much money there is. They're determined by how much we actually receive the abundant bounty that's already there. So we're going to talk about that on the next episode. So stay with me if you're interested in this. I think this is fascinating. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure you're subscribed to the Free to Soar podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube. If you're watching this here, and if you enjoy this episode, if you're getting value out of this, please leave a rating and a review, and share it on social, share it, text it to a friend, say, I can't wait for you to hear this next episode. It's what it's all about. And how to actually, in our next episode, actually signal that safety in our nervous system, how to begin to regulate our nervous system, how to live from the resourced, regulated leader, and so that your body can begin to expand your wealth, you can improve your health, and you can feel much more abundance, peace, and joy in life and in your business than you ever thought possible. All right, guys. Hope this inspired and encouraged you today and opened your eyes. And I look forward to seeing you right back here next time on the next episode. See you soon.
Thanks for joining me today on the Free to Soar podcast, where we empower and equip you to lead the business and the life of your dreams with freedom, impact, enjoyment, and abundance. I look forward to our next episode together, and I invite you to subscribe to be notified of new episodes as they are released. Please share this or your favorite episode with a friend or a loved one, and I'd love it if you'd leave a review on iTunes and Spotify.